Hey, it's Conrad Thompson, and you're listening to 83 Weeks with Eric Bischoff. Eric, what's going on, man? How are you?
I'm just happy to be home, brother. It's been another one of those great travel weekends where I was supposed to be home at 1:30 Sunday afternoon, and I was lucky to stagger in last night around 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. I'm just happy to be home.
Well, we're glad you're here as well. We had intentions of recording before you skipped town, and our computers didn't get along that day. And then, man, I was just getting the play by play. Living in the middle of nowhere comes at a cost, does it not, Eric?
Yeah, we refer to it as the Wyoming tax. We don't have a state income tax here, so that's kind of nice. But we do have a different kind of tax, and that's for those of us who travel for a living, or at least for a big part of our living. Because in my case, typically, I'll take the 2 hours, drive up to Billings, go to wherever I'm going, fly back, drive home from Billings to Cody. I've gotten so used to that, it's no big deal. I kind of enjoy it, to be honest. But it's, 2-hour drive. This particular trip, I was heading out to Hartford, Connecticut, and, this particular trip, I decided, "No, I'm gonna fly out of Cody." I did, and unfortunately, the odds of getting to wherever you're going or getting back from wherever you've been into Cody is at best a 50-50 proposition.
Mm.
But I rolled the dice. I rolled the dice. Maybe it's going to work out. It didn't. The flight that I was originally booked on is still not arrived in Cody yet. It's supposedly coming in this afternoon, but even that's unknown. So I ended up buying another ticket, flying into Billings, and fortunately, my brother-in-law came up, picked me up, drove me home last night so I could do this show because I was already late. So I appreciate that. Joe Bacall, shout out to you, brother. I appreciate the help. But yeah, I'm just happy to be here. And I am never going to fly out of Cody again when I have anything important on the back end.
Well, we're glad you're here. And man, I got to at least acknowledge if you're watching with us over at 83.com, we're looking at a different backdrop today. You're not in your home studio, or as you call it, the bunkhouse. It looks like you might be set up at the infamous Bischoff bar right now inside the cabin there. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm still having technical issues with my computer. Evidently, my keyboard is not feeling well and not cooperating and not being a player. So I went out there this morning out to the bunkhouse to set up and do the show. And lo and behold, it didn't. My keyboard still didn't work. So yeah, we're back in. We're improvising from the uh, from the famous. This is about 120-year-old bar at this. I have to do the math out of Hardin, Montana.
So
But yeah,
around 1900 when that bar's from.
no, it was before that. It was a little bit before that.
Wow.
So yeah, it's pretty old, and there's a couple of them in the country. Robert Redford had one at his resort in Sundance. It was almost identical to this one. There's one in a place called the Palace Bar, which is a very famous bar in Prescott, Arizona. Beautiful bar. It's bigger than mine. Ours. That's a beautiful one. And I've seen one or two others around. Pretty rare.
Just for fun, can we get you to post over on your Twitter or maybe on the 83 Weeks Twitter a picture of the bar? Because it's such a beautiful bar. I don't think we've ever really shown it here on this.
Yeah, in fact, while we're doing throughout the show, I'll take a look in my photos. But I think I've got a picture in my photo thing, and I'll send it over to Dave, and maybe he can throw it up and look at it during this show.
Oh, how about that? Check us out at 83weeks.com if you haven't already, and be sure to hit the subscribe button, turn the notifications bell on. You never know when we're going to go live because, boy, things are changing in the wrestling business. And I had a chance, we were actually recording, as luck would have it, on a Tuesday morning. Now, normally Eric and I try to record on a Sunday morning, but it's a Tuesday morning. So as a result, we have both seen Monday Night Raw. And I got to tell you, Eric, I feel like this was one of the better Raws in recent memory. I'm not going to go so far as to say it's one of the best Raws of all time and all that, but I thought it was a really, really good show. And it went off the air with a really old school angle. It felt like Jim Crockett Promotions or something. It was a really fun episode. I'm curious to see what you thought because I know you've had a stance on blood before, but I thought it was used pretty effectively. What'd you think about Monday Night Raw last night?
I really enjoyed it. No, I watched it at 6 o'clock this morning, my time. So I got up early, started pounding coffee, and wanted to really be able to focus on the show. And that 3 hours flew by. Now I did speed up through the commercials and things like that, so I didn't have to sit there for 3 hours, but wow, I didn't see anything that didn't hold my attention. This show was so well done, and I found so many things about it, especially in light of a lot of the conversation, social media conversation as of late, about how many minutes of wrestling like that fucking matters to anybody that's an actual producer. It only matters to that small, subsection of audience who, you know, loves wrestling just for the sake of wrestling. It could care less if it means anything or there's a story or characters or anything like that. But I think we were like 22 or 24 minutes into the show
Yeah.
before we heard a word.
Yeah.
It was great. And that segment with Rock and Cody. Now, Cody, we got a lot of narrative out of Cody. He set it up really, really well. Rock came out. You're expecting something explosive. I was. And all you got was that stare down with the little whisper at the and I immediately thought, man, this is if anybody ever wants to take a look at the saying less is more and why that's important, look at this segment. Watch the people in the crowd. Forget about Rock and Cody for a moment. Just focus on the crowd. Listen to them and watch them. They were far more engaged in that stare down for however long it was. I didn't time it. They were far more engaged and interactive during that stare down than they would have ever been during any kind of an angle or, God please, a match. That's the other thing that I noticed. So that's that point. I thought it was a fascinating study in the art of less is more
Yes.
because it worked. It just worked so well. The other thing that I really liked, I liked the Becky Lynch rematch a lot because it was a perfect study in the art of keeping people away. Had they done what typically we see so often is some kind of physicality. Now there was physicality, but the physicality was in the form of them two trying to get to each other. And there was good contact. There was some heat there, no doubt about it. But they were able to make the audience just want to see that match without giving them too much.
Yeah.
That's what I'm really trying to say. So often when you're trying to get heat, you're getting close to the finish line, right? WrestleMania being the finish line, you're getting close to the event. It's so easy, and I think typical for talent and producers to want to see the action, get heat. God, beat the hell out of Becky, get heat on Becky. Typically it would be heel would get the heat on the baby face, leave him in a pool of blood. That's what they were doing at the end. So they artfully they gave the audience enough to satisfy them, but they didn't give them so much to over satisfy them and therefore build anticipation. Another really classic, well done example of keeping the talent apart, create anticipation, want to see the resolution. I thought that was really the opening match. I know I'm bouncing around here, but guys, I've been drinking coffee since 5:30. You're going to have to strap in. I can't. Uh, the other thing that I really liked was the Ricochet. What is it? JD MacArthur? JD something?
Right.
Sorry, I don't know his name. That was a phenomenal match. I mean, that for the audience that needs to see fast paced, kind of a lucha, high flying, cruiserweight esque match. Ricochet's a freak. He's so good. I mean, wow. That was fun to watch. What else did I really like about
Let
the
me
show?
time out. I know you're doing like a Will Osprey love fest. I'm grateful for that because I think he's phenomenal talent. I think I've mentioned this before, but I don't recall. Have you seen his match with Ricochet from several years ago, maybe 2017?
No, no.
Go just throw that in your Google machine when we finish today. Now that I know you were impressed with what Ricochet did, I can't wait for you to see what he and Will Osprey did like 7 years ago. It'll blow your mind, especially in the context of 7 years ago.
And I think, and I will do that because I'm interested in seeing it. one of the things, I've always loved, this is one of the reasons I created the cruiserweight division, because I love the high flying, faster paced action. So it's not like I've never liked that style of wrestling. I was impressed with it enough back in whenever 1995 or so to create a cruiserweight division and bring people in from all over the world to showcase that style um, before anybody else did on a regular basis in prime time. So it's not like a newfound love for me. But what I like about what I saw with Ricochet and JD, and I'm so sorry, JD, I don't remember your last name, but I will
McDonough.
get it
McDonough.
right. McDonough. JD McDonough, one of my favorite new talents in WWE. JD McDonough. But one of the things I liked about it is the moves were they meant something. They were part of the story. It wasn't guys going out there and flying around for the sake of flying around. It made sense,
Right.
and I enjoyed watching. The precision and timing was mind-boggling, but it was that it made sense to me, and there wasn't too much of it. I didn't feel like I was watching really big, high-risk moves just for the sake of a
Right.
really big, high-risk move. I guess that's what it kinda meant something. What else did I really love?
I mean,
Gable. Gable and Sammy. Chad Gable's finding his character,
yeah.
and I love it. He is a great guy. I worked with him a little bit in 2019 trying to help him find his groove a little bit, and didn't get to spend a lot of time with him, but the little bit of time I did spend with him was really, really enjoyable, and I was so impressed with him. And he's such an amazing performer, but he's never really found his groove.
Mm.
This might be it. Let's see where it goes. I've always been a fan of Sammy's, but I think Sammy's facials, recognizing rather than being defensive, as we normally would see when somebody's like Chad was coming up and telling him what he needed to do to beat Bronson Reed and all that. It it's he sold me. Sammy sold me, and he's such a great performer that I was excited about that. I'm excited about the combination of Chad and where that goes. And obviously the end, and there was a lot of other stuff in the middle. But let's talk about the blood. How did I really feel?
Let me time out for just a minute while you're thinking about the, because I wanted to
Yeah.
ask you, we've talked a little bit about PG and
Mm.
this move to Netflix. What could that mean? And very early in the program, we saw that great Cody Rhodes promo. We saw the whisper from The Rock. I told my wife the same thing. I said, boy, that right there is less is more. It proves that sometimes you don't need 10 pounds of shit in a 5-pound bag, as we say. But I mean, less is more because now there's so much intrigue about what did he say? What does it mean? Blah, blah, blah. And then later, when he stopped and asked about that by the interviewer, he says, go ask Cody Rhodes. And then she says, she pursues Cody, and it kept a thread all the way through. I thought they did a great job.
Yes, exactly.
But what was really neat in the middle to me, talking about two things, and then we'll go back to the show. The CM Punk promo, where he said, hey, my arm doesn't work, but my mouth still does. And he made some sort of reference to, but
His wife.
we're not on Netflix yet. April knows what I'm talking about. So there's a Netflix reference that maybe we're going to get a little more edgy. And then he called out when Drew McIntyre referenced himself as the chosen one. I thought it was interesting that Punk said, "Oh yeah, who chose you?" Almost daring him to say Vince McMahon's name on the television program, which we know can't happen. I thought that was a fantastic segment and one of my favorite moments on the show. That whole Seth, Punk, Drew. I think Drew and Seth are like two of the unsung heroes. I know all of the attention right now is on Cody, Rock, and Roman, and I get that. But real MVPs of the last year for WWE, got to be Drew McIntyre, who I think is doing his best work yet. And Seth Rollins has been doing this on a bad wheel. Really impressive what they're doing. But then fast forward to the end of the show. Not only the blood, but The Rock cursing multiple times, including where you could visibly see where he said,
But
"This
wait,
is
wait, 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 wait. That can't be because Dave Meltzer said that the more everybody wants Rock to sanitize the show and be an example. Dave Meltzer said it, so it must be true, right? Did Rock not get the memo? What the fuck?
great question. We'll have to ask Mr. Johnson." But when he says, "This is what happens when you fuck with the final boss, I was like, wow, we're just dropping F bombs on Raw. Now, granted, they knew it was coming and it was bleeped and they had plenty of coverage. But I'll tell you what, you want to talk about suspending disbelief. Everybody listening to this knows what pro wrestling is. But in real life, if you and I hated each other, we would not say, I'm going to kick your hiney, Mr. Bischoff. I am so upset
Right.
with you. That's not the way we talk. And for him to say, this is what happens when you fuck with the final boss, it felt like a movie. It felt way more real than the cartoon confines of pro wrestling that sometimes has existed. I think this is a huge step in the right direction and maybe further proof that maybe not attitude era. It's a different era. We got to stop saying attitude era. I think a lot of people in the business are sick of us referencing the attitude era. I think this is, I don't know, not PG, but I loved it as an adult wrestling fan, as a 42-year-old man. It was very well done and very believable. I like the blood. I like the F word. I like leaning into that. Now I know you can't do it all the time. Got to make it special. If everybody's bleeding and cursing, it's not special. It doesn't stand out. But I thought it was done fabulous.
Yeah, I did too, and I wanna talk about that again, but glad you brought up Punk and Drew, Seth. Sitting through that, I actually felt bad. I empathize with Punk because not gonna be he can't wrestle.
Right.
He can't really do anything physical in the ring.
Right.
Obviously, the audience wanted to see him. They wanted him to be a real part of the show, evident, but that's a tough spot to be in. It's a tough spot to be in when you can't do anything and everybody knows you can't do it. So I thought and as I'm listening to this, and I listened to it closely, I'm thinking, man, they're spending a lot of time just to make a point that CM Punk's gonna be in commentary.
Right.
Like, who the fuck cares? Really? I mean, if you're a big CM Punk fan, of course you're gonna be happy. But it's not like he's going to go out there and do anything other than run his mouth. And I don't know what the timeline is for him to get back in the ring or not. I'm
Months.
guessing it. Yeah, so
Months.
it's not gonna be like a week after WrestleMania, he's gonna be in a match or he's gonna be in a program. That's not it. But I'm sitting through that segment and I'm thinking, this is you're spending way too much time on it, way too. And there were some awkward moments and reactions because it was my feeling was if it was scripted, it was loosely scripted.
Absolutely.
I could be wrong, but it had enough peaks and valleys in terms of its quality, and I don't even say in terms of its
It didn't feel scripted.
it didn't it wasn't as fluid as scripted promos tend to be.
Yes.
Therefore, it felt real, and I loved that. But I thought, man, this is going too long. And then came the finish of the segment, and Seth with the sidekick, boom, and now it all of a sudden, however long that segment was, it might have been 6 minutes or 8 minutes, is my guess. All of a sudden, it all made sense. It worked for because they finished it. They finished it perfectly, and you delivered on that. I thought it was
I thought it was a fantastic segment. I couldn't help but notice, not playing conspiracy, but I couldn't help but notice that when Punk went to get out of the ring, he braced on the bad arm. So when he goes through the ropes to jump out, he had all his weight
huh.
on that arm. And I was like, okay, then. Clearly, he's been working hard and he's been rehabbing. Now, I don't have any inside knowledge, but obviously, I know that Bruce had tricep surgery, I think the same week that Punk did. And from what I understand, that's several months. I would think he's probably even very conservatively 2 months away. So, do I think we'll see Punk over the summer? Absolutely. Any chance we'll see him at SummerSlam? 100%. I don't think we're going to see him turn that into a three-way, which is what a lot of people have been asking online. It's like, I just don't see that being possible at WrestleMania. However, they're not just going to have Punk do commentary. He's going to be involved in that match somehow. He's going to influence the finish somehow, and that will set up future business. And I, for one, am looking forward to that. And I'm wondering, were there other Easter eggs in the program? I don't know if you noticed this, but I noticed it live and then online, man, it felt like it was everywhere right after. Where people were noticing the final scene with The Rock
Mm.
and Cody brawling outside in the rain in 53-degree Chicago weather, and Rock's running around with a tank top on, which is awesome. There's a big tractor trailer there that moves all the WWE rings and lighting and rigs. And now remember, he's referred to himself as the final boss. And in the background, we see these trucks, and we've seen them a lot. But normally there's a lot of current talent on there. This particular truck, which I admit I've never seen before, but I don't know that it's brand new, but certainly made me wonder, is that a coincidence that the only two other people that are seen in this shot, besides Cody and The Rock, are the faces on that big tractor trailer being John Cena and Stone Cold Steve Austin? We've heard the rumors that John Cena is going to appear at WrestleMania. We don't know at what capacity, but he's going to be there. And it does stand to reason it's WrestleMania 40. It's in Philadelphia. It's the 25-year anniversary of when Stone Cold wrestled The Rock in the main event at WrestleMania 15. We're back in Philadelphia. He called himself the final boss. Is that an Easter egg? Is that some foreshadowing? What say you, Eric?
I say that truck was lit. I mean, lit, professionally lit for the
Yes.
cameras.
Yeah.
So that was not, oh, look at that, just happened to be there.
And it was framed up.
And here's what, no, I mean, it was centered in the frame.
Yes.
It was, Rock made sure he was positioned, and he put Cody to make sure that we got a full look at it. I mean, if you look at that right now, that image is probably 25% of that frame,
Yes.
and it was lit properly. So that was a really cool Easter egg. And it, kind of opens up the door. But the 25-year anniversary you referred to with Rock, could Rock get involved? Could Rock be surprised that
You're,
Cody needs
you're saying
at the right
Rock.
time?
You mean Austin.
I mean Austin. Yes, I'm sorry,
Yes.
Austin. Thank you. Yeah, could Austin be there to lend an assist if Cody needs? I don't know, but see, here's the fun part: we're talking about it.
Yes.
And we don't know, and we're curious, and we're wondering, just like we wondered what Rock whispered to Cody. When you can get your audience asking questions, whether it's on social media or back in the day, they called it water cooler talk, right?
Yes.
Everybody would get together, the next day after Raw or after Nitro, and talk about what happened. That
Yes.
was one of the reasons the shows were so successful at that time, because people were engaged. And I think the less is more approach with Cody and Rock in the beginning created that question that was, as you pointed out correctly, thread throughout the show. It didn't just happen and then, oh, that's right, I remember that. By the end of the show, they threaded it throughout the show to make the audience focus. What they really did is they told the audience to, and subtly or subliminally, you're telling the audience to pay attention because something big is going to happen. But they do it in the form of a question as opposed to a threat. Rock could have come out and said, Cody Rhodes, before the end of the night, I'm going to bloody you up, that make your mama cry. Okay, now I know what's going to happen. I'm not curious. I may tune in to see it, but I'm not curious about it. But the way they did it got us all talking and asking. And I love that. Who's the third man? The reason the NWO worked as well as it did. There's a variety of reasons, but one of the big ones is the who's the third man? Because for months, people were asking the question. And if you can get the audience to ask questions as opposed to making statements, you won. Creatively, you won. That's exactly what last night's show did so effectively. So yeah, I think it was intentional. I think it is a foreshadow. Here's another good one. If you want to go back and watch it, there's a couple other things, business of the business wise, not so much storyline or character driven, but when we first start to go outside, Rock's laying out Cody backstage. He's dragging him around, bouncing him off shit, hitting him with a garbage can, all that good stuff. He goes to take him outside. And as he opens the door, what do we see? We see the back of Cody's bus,
Yep.
which is wrapped with a Wheatley vodka advertisement.
Yep.
Now, I don't know what that deal is. I don't know if that's a Cody deal or a WWE deal.
WWE deal.
But here's what I do know. What was it, Conrad?
WWE deal.
It's a WWE deal. Okay, now I'm working. So Rock opens up the doors over his left shoulder. As he opens up the door, he holds it open, and once again, right in the center of the frame is Wheatley vodka.
Yep.
Awesome is that? That's the business of the wrestling business.
Yes, it is.
That's a big step because we've talked about long a lot of times over the last 5 years. Alcohol and wrestling have never been able to find a way to play together.
Right.
Another big thing that's changed. And that's a massive thing for business because if you can open up the door to alcohol advertising within the show, you've got a you've got a plethora. Plethora. I don't think I've used plethora. I haven't. You have a plethora of brands out there who have a hard time advertising because they're alcohol. It's expensive. And now they've got a great audience to advertise to that is opening up the doors to them where they've been closed before, whether it was WWE closing the doors or USA closing the doors, or maybe the vodka industry or the alcohol industry just being too afraid of wrestling because of the kids in the audience. But whatever, man, they're embracing it. And I just thought it was really cool the way they did that. And there were so many other examples, Michael Cole and whoever it was doing color and play by play for a fucking Godzilla movie. I mean, did you see that? I don't know if you skipped through the commercials
I,
or not.
I skipped through.
Oh my god, it was awesome. It was so well done, and not really commenting on the quality of how well it was done because it really, really was. But the fact that somebody sat down and negotiated a deal with a movie company,
Yeah.
which have historically they've spent a lot of money in advertising decades. They were always a go-to. If there's movies coming out a certain time of year, you could always plan on that ad spend within wrestling. But WWE is now taking it to an entirely different level and in such an effective way. You go back and check out that commercial. It's really interesting. And the fact that they can make an interesting commercial
Yeah.
that holds your attention inside of a wrestling show is another big step forward. There's just a lot of things to be excited about from the business to business, what I saw.
Well, I know what
Now, you asked me the question, how did I feel about the blood? I
Whoa,
was
whoa,
gonna
whoa,
try
whoa,
to
whoa, whoa,
avoid it.
whoa, whoa, whoa. Eric,
All right.
occasionally we have to take a time out. And now is one of those times because I really want to talk to you about the hair you've been growing around your cock and nut. This episode is brought to you by the spring cleaning champions, Manscaped. This season, be sure to groom your carpets and the drapes with the leader in below the waist grooming. Be sure to clean out that winter bush with Manscaped's Lawnmower 5.0 and watch your confidence bloom like the springtime flowers. Brace the season and join the 10 million men worldwide who now trust Manscaped with this special offer. Go to manscaped.com and use our promo code 83weeks. 20% off and free shipping. After Manscaped, I can finally say I've got the spring fever. I want to introduce you to the season's champ, the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. What you'll find is their 5th generation trimmer here has not one but 2 interchangeable next-gen skin-safe blade heads, a standard one for taking a little off the top, and a new foil blade to go smooth wherever your heart desires. It also features dual LED spotlights to guide you through the darkest winter debris. Navigate with confidence in your delicate areas. Don't worry about making a mess either. This dude is waterproof. You can use it in the shower, the bath, the ocean, Eric's hot tub, whatever you're looking for. This spring, you can also be able to carry this with a compact case. How about that? You can take it everywhere you go. Going on vacation? No problem. Don't let that dick hair get you down. Spring is no problem, especially spring cleaning here with the brand new Beard Hedger Pro Kit and the Handyman Electric Face Shaver. That's right. Not just for your nether regions. Now they can take care of your neckline, help you get the signature beard look, whatever you're looking for. Why not get 20% off and free shipping with the code 83weeks at manscaped.com? That's 20% off and free shipping with the code 83weeks at manscaped.com. Nothing like a little spring cleaning in your pants. Okay, now let's get back to the blood. This is a big deal. And I know that some of our listeners are like, yeah, what's the big deal? The big deal is blade jobs, quote unquote, have been banned from WWE for a long time. Several years ago, there was a pretty controversial moment at a SummerSlam, I think it was in New York, where Brock Lesnar hardwayed Randy Orton with some really stiff elbows on the brow and got some real blood going. And I know that was the headbutt with Vince McMahon and KO, but I mean, a traditional old school wrestling zippity doo dah. Cody did it in the parking lot right outside of the bus. We don't normally see blood on WWE television. When we have blood on WWE TV, we would get a wide shot. It would be accidental. We would try to shy away from it. We embraced it here. And I know that, we talked about this at the very start of the show, just with the whisper less is more. And if you're not bleeding in every single segment, every single week, it matters. This is WrestleMania. And this is sort of that awkward period between pay per views where I think by and large fans are ready and have been ready for a week or two for this show to happen. But we've still got to build television, not a little bit, but 5 hours a week. So how do we keep it going? Well, we reach in our old bag of tricks and we find a razor. Eric, what'd you think?
I didn't like it,
Oh, come on,
and I
man.
and I have a thing that I can't get over, and look, it wasn't excessive.
No.
It wasn't be zoomed in with a camera and nobody lick the blood off their face, and kind of grotesque shit I've seen. So it was judicious enough that I wasn't completely turned off by it. I think I get it. I know why they did it. It's just I am absolutely in the minority on this. I don't know why I feel as strongly as I do about it because most things I'm pretty flexible
Yeah.
in many ways when it comes to creative, but there's something about it. I don't know. I would have, maybe if it would have been a little less blood. I said it wasn't too, that shot that Dave just put up. I guess I didn't notice it as much, but maybe if it would have been just a little bit more and we weren't showcasing it quite as much as we were trying to make that point, if it looked a little bit more organic. And I'm not saying cut away from it, pretend it didn't happen and shoot wide shots, but if you're watching along on 83weeks.com, you're seeing what I'm seeing, and that's the camera's right there. I mean,
Yes.
25% of that frame is Cody bleeding.
Yes.
I think that was just a little bit more than necessary, but I get it. I
Now,
get it.
but help me
I'll
understand
be
why you don't like it. Do you think it pushes advertisers away?
that's part of it. That's the business side of me because in my experience, it does, or it can. That's part of it. But part of it is, I guess, because I've seen so much of it and it's so overdone that when I see it, it doesn't make me feel empathy. In this case for Cody, doesn't make me feel sympathetic towards him. It just makes me feel like, oh, they're trying really hard here. That's why I say it's just me. The good news is we didn't see it on the rest of the show.
Right.
It wasn't like 5 other guys got juice, which is typically what we see some promotion. Like every other match, somebody's getting split open. It gets to the point where it doesn't mean anything. In this case, you know, didn't see it anywhere else. We haven't seen blood in WWE in a long time. So I guess it mattered. The part of me that liked it was it's a throwback to old school. It's like the way it used to be done. That part of me likes that, a traditional way of getting heat. The fact that there was blood all over the weight belt that had Cody's mama or Mama Cody or whatever it was,
Mama
Mama
Rhodes.
Rhodes. Mama Rhodes, yeah. That was a nice touch to bring Cody's mom into this. I'd like to see her face when this is going on at
Oh,
home.
she's gonna be
That would be
front
fun.
row at WrestleMania. You just know it.
Do have you spent time with Michelle, right?
Fantastic woman. How could you not love her?
One of one of the sweetest people on the face of the earth.
Yes.
But she can get hot. She
Yes.
does have a fuse, and it's,
Cuban.
like, really, really short. So, I'll be anxious to see her as well.
You would have loved to have seen her at an AEW pay-per-view. I forget who she was wrestling. I think not she, Cody. I think he was wrestling Jericho. Forget, but I think that's right. And as Jericho made his way over with Cody and Obviously, Jericho's got the advantage, and he's putting a whooping on Cody or something. He starts talking trash to Michelle. She rears back, slaps him, and then starts hollering, "Fuck you." And I was like, this is the real Michelle, and it's fantastic. And I can't wait to see her at WrestleMania. She's going to steal the show. I mean, I know we're fantasy booking the territory, and I know this isn't going to happen. But in my dream scenario, not only does Stone Cold come help make the save, but Mama Rhodes is doing a beer bash with Stone Cold. That'd be
Well,
hilarious.
why do you think that's not gonna happen?
I
This is
hope that happens. That would be so awesome. I'd
or
get that shit
something like
framed in
it,
my
right?
house. Yeah, it's amazing.
See, I mean, you just fantasy booked a really, really cool spot there. I mean, if that were to happen, because obviously Dusty Rhodes and Austin, a lot of history there.
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of all just makes so much sense. Like just what you laid out there could be really great moment inside of WrestleMania, especially with the focus. And this isn't the first time Rock has brought up Michelle, Cody's mama, right? Been coming. This is a reoccurring theme we're seeing here. So
Yes.
it lends me to think it lends me to believe that you might have something there beyond something. I'm excited. Just this conversation makes me excited even more. For that's the other thing I was thinking about. Okay, this show. What are they trying to do in the show? Obviously, it's build anticipation without giving the audience so much in terms of action and physical confrontation that they feel like there's nothing, there's nowhere to go yet, or there's nowhere to go. Teasing them, keeping everybody apart, intensity is there, the narrative is all there. I don't know. I just I think the fact that they produced that show in such a way is to people talking and to create conversation amongst people like you and I and everybody listening to the show. What's going to happen? What if they do this? Who's going to? Whoa! What if? I mean, fantasy booking is probably one of the things they were hoping to achieve during this thing because it helps to build anticipation.
I knew it was going to be a good show because over the weekend I got a handful of folks who texted who said, "Hey, Monday's Raw's," and it was a home run, and I loved it. But we decided to ask you guys. We're running polls now over at 83weeks.com. I encourage you to head over there now, hit the subscribe button, turn the notifications bell on. But when we're soliciting questions for the shows now, we won't be doing that on social. We'll be doing that on YouTube. When we're running polls about new topics, we won't be doing that on social. We'll be doing that on YouTube. But we threw a poll up last night. Our guy Derek Sabato, who helped us on the back end, threw up a poll that said, "Hey, what'd you think of the angle? How would you rate it?" And 7% was a dud, 2 stars, 2%, 3 stars, 6%, 4 stars, 16%, and an overwhelming 69% gave it 5 stars. That's with 5,500 votes when we cut it off. 69% gave it 5 stars, Eric. So I know that, we're trying to get things to a fevered pitch for WrestleMania. It feels like they did that last night. Blood be damned. People were digging it, man. Are you surprised that so many people gave that 5 stars?
No, not at all. I mean, given the intensity of it, and I know the audience, reacts positively to blood, which is why I know I'm in the minority. But it wasn't just the blood. That was a part of it. Just the intensity, the fact that it's rock. I really dug the fact that it was raining out. Just another thing that made me feel like I'm watching live TV. Right? It's just so much about that whole segment was intense and it got serious heat, old school.
It was
I don't know.
poetic,
I'm not surprised at all. I'm not surprised a bit. I'd be surprised. I'd like to meet I'd like to meet a couple of those 2 percenters and have a conversation with
Yeah,
like
what
who.
was there? What are they looking for in wrestling? Like, if that's not it, and I think this a show like last night is proof positive, in my opinion. That story matters more than matches. Now, I'm not saying matches don't matter. I'm just saying if we had to pick one, I was more excited about the stories last night, which specifically were the opening segment, Cody and The Rock, one of the crossover hours with Punk, Seth, and Drew, and then the final segment with Cody and Rock. Those are my three favorite segments from the show. Not 1 minute of actual in-ring wrestling happened during any of those 3 segments, but those are the 3 that resonated the most with me. And I know you're anti-blood and you're really anti-blade, but I bet there's one blade that you're actually a big fan of. Do I have that right?
Dude, so much so, I've got anxiety right now because while I got home last night, my luggage is somewhere between here and Hartford, Connecticut, and my Henson razor is in that bag. And if you can't see, I haven't shaved like in 3 days because I don't have my razor. And I'm not gonna go use a different razor.
Right.
I'm not going to go use I have them. I have backup razors. I'm not gonna touch them. I am not shaving until my razor gets back. If it means I have to order another one to have a backup, I will do that. The next time you see me, I may have a beard. I'm
Well, let me give you a pro tip, Eric. It can get there fast when you go to hensonshaving.com/Bischoff and use our code Bischoff. We've been talking about Henson for a while now, and it's because Eric and I really do believe in this product. We've been fortunate enough to promote some really fine products on the show over the years, but man, this has got to be near the top of the list. You'll just feel the quality in your hand, and when you use it, you'll understand the difference. Never have I ever put anyone onto this who didn't absolutely love it. Well, that's not true. I got one negative response on social, and the guy said it cut his face up. And I said, "Hey, man, you put the razor in upside down." And he said, "No, I didn't. I followed the instructions. It's a bad product." The next day, he posted, "Hey, my bad. I tried what you said. This is the best shave I've ever had." So the only way to get this wrong is user error. But if you're using it as instructed, this will be the best shave and the last razor you'll ever use. I mean that sincerely. My dad's on it. My barber's on it. Think about that. How many times does my barber have to use a razor? Every day, 5, 6, 7, 20. I don't know how many haircuts they do a day, but the point is, they're only using Henson now because this is the real deal. And what makes them so special is as a company, they're an aerospace parts manufacturer, a family owned business that's doing aerospace stuff. Yeah, they made parts for the International Space Station, Mars rover. But then somehow, some way, they said, "Hey, what if we use our aerospace grade CNC machines to make the thinnest razors you've ever seen?" Well, how thin are they? Thinner than a human hair. Now, why does that matter? Well, because it gives you a more secure and stable blade that gives you a vibration free shave. And that means less nicks and cuts and scrapes and razor bumps and all that jazz. The razor also has a built in channel to evacuate hair and cream. If you're watching with us on 83weeks.com or just go look for yourself, hensonshaving.com/Bischoff, you'll see those channels on either side. It's unlike any razor I've ever used. These guys were intent on making the best razor, not the best razor business. You see, if they were just after your wallet, they'd have some planned obsolescence. They'd come out with the Henson 2.0 next year. That ain't going to happen. There's no proprietary blades, meaning it's not like, if you run out of your Henson blades, you can't just go get a standard dual edge blade. You can do that. Will the shave be as good? No, because you want the really thin Henson blade. But there's also no plastic. This is a one and done purchase. This will outlive you. And there's no subscriptions. This is a real deal product that we are thrilled to have the opportunity to represent here because we love it in our real life, and you will too. I hope you can hear our passion because we really believe in this product and we want you to try it. Not only is it better than what you've been doing, it's also more affordable. Check this out. You get the standard dual edge blade like your handsome ass grandfather used to use, very old school. Cody had one in his hand last night, but it also has the benefits of new school tech. So this aerospace stuff, man, Pop never knew nothing about this. Here's what's really cool. It's $3 to $5 to replace the blade. Not $3 to $5 a shave or a week or a month or a quarter. $3 to $5 a year. Y'all, we're talking about a quarter and a dime, and you're hooked up this month. What? Let's say no to subscriptions. Let's say yes to a razor that truly will last you a lifetime. Go right now to hensonshaving.com/Bischoff to pick the razor for you and use the code Bischoff. You'll get 2 years worth of blades free with your razor. Just be sure to add them to your cart. That's 100 free blades when you head to hensonshaving.com/Bischoff and use the code Bischoff. If this product would have came out in the 80s as a stocking stuffer, you could have just given Rick like the 100 free blades. You could have said, "All right, see you in 3 months, champ."
I was watching was when I was watching, what I was morning, it might have been before I started watching Monday Night Raw. I saw an advertisement for a competitor, a subscription-based competitor, and, they show you the razor, and I've had that. I've subscribed to this particular competitor in the past, and it's a light plastic razor.
Yep.
It's just doesn't feel like it's worth anything, and it's got 3 blades or 5 blades or whatever, and, when I need to replace my blades, they're only $3. I'm thinking, you can
That's a
get almost
year's
200
worth.
of them for a
Yes.
little bit more than that. I mean, what are you talking about? Only $3 a blade. And the fact is that when you said at the beginning of that read for him, you'll feel the difference.
Yes.
You'll not only feel the difference, because you get an amazingly close shave, but because of the weight, it's
Yes.
it's a very heavy for a razor. It's heavy, it's real. It feels like a real product, not a piece of plastic.
It's
So
substantial.
yes, that's the word I was looking for. Substantial.
Check it out. HensonShaving.com/Bischoff. Be sure to use our promo code Bischoff. Eric, our topic today, boy, we've been talking for a while and we haven't even sniffed the topic. We are eventually going to talk about celebrity championship wrestling. But before we do, I got to bring up at least a few things. I got sent this a couple of times yesterday, but I guess RJ City sat down with, well, I don't know if he's called Johnny Nitro anymore, but for the purposes of our story, we're going to call him Johnny Nitro. Maybe he's Johnny Elite. I'm not exactly, but you know who I'm talking about. A really talented performer who you worked with in WWE. And I guess RJ, who has a lot of fun on AEW, which is a great show if you haven't seen it on YouTube. He asked Johnny about being your apprentice. Hey, or you were his protege, or he was your protege, or you were his mentor, whatever on camera thing that happened in WWE back in the day. And RJ said something along the lines of, "Hey, what'd you learn from Eric Bischoff?" And of course, Johnny said nothing. And RJ had a little tongue in cheek response about, "Hey, maybe in 20 years you'll go do a podcast and say the exact opposite or something similar." I thought it was funny. I wondered if you thought it was.
I saw it this morning and, um, I eh, I didn't feel one I mean, look, if you're gonna do it, do it. You know what I mean? Make it mean something. But to have if it's Johnny TV, I think that's how they refer to him coming out and say, "Thing boring." And I think RJ's response was equally as boring for me. I mean, it didn't I was hoping it would be at least funny or interesting, and it was neither. I found it interesting that they felt the need to do it or wanted to do it, but it wasn't really funny. It wasn't really a shot. Kinda was, but not really, so it didn't have much of a zing to it.
It was funny because the people who sent it to me thought am I pissed off? And I was like, about what?
Why would I be pissed off?
It was an on camera thing. It was a storyline. It's not real life. And I don't know. It just made me chuckle that after all the times we've talked about AEW and you specifically, maybe not so glowing at times, just to hear your name said on an AEW program made me laugh. I don't know why. It
Well,
just
I
did.
think it was an attempt to take a shot at me, but it was such a weak ass shot, you know? Yeah, it's AEW, so it is what it is.
Well, it is what it is with Ronda Rousey too. I got to at least put this on your radar.
Whoa.
She's been doing a lot of publicity and doing some interviews. She's promoting her new book, as I understand it. And man, she's just letting it rip, Tater Chip. And she said some pretty pointed things. Specifically, it's hard sometimes know where the evil, unethical slimeball character of Vince McMahon, played out for the camera, ends. An actual questionably ethical, many times sued and multiple times accused of sexual misconduct, Vince McMahon begins. Pay per view events are held in major cities like New York, Los Angeles, and Philadelphia, as well as now twice a year in Saudi Arabia, a nation that restricts the rights of women in a way that I'm certain Vince McMahon wishes he could. WWE bills itself as a sports entertainment organization, and just like in the mainstream entertainment industry, it was by all accounts a casting couch culture where men backstage in powerful positions pressured female talent for sexual favors in return for airtime. In MMA, I originally just started them for publicity, talking about feuds. But those other bitches did not get the demo, or the memo. So they became personal. And in WWE, it's all fake. I love them, except for Bruce Pritchard and John Laurinaitis. They can go fuck themselves. She had a lot of other comments where she talked about, that she didn't like Bruce and felt like Bruce, uh, she's just not a Bruce fan. And she was specific about saying that Johnny Ace, maybe she implied that there was a cutoff. He wasn't interested in recruiting women who were working the independent circuit. He wanted girls who would maybe been blonde haired women from Tennessee or Florida. I don't know if that's specifically referencing someone or not, but she certainly indicated that she has no interest in going back. She can't deal with the
Well,
mediocrity
that's
and
good.
blah, blah, blah. But she was very complimentary, and I mean very complimentary of Triple H. But she also said that when Stephanie slapped her, she got a concussion and she felt like she couldn't speak up. I mean, I don't know if she's intending to go scorched earth, but it seems like every day she's got another headline. I'm sure you've seen them. What do you make of all this?
It leaves a bad. I've never had a real high opinion of Ronda anyway. I mean, in MMA I did. I really really enjoyed watching her. Nothing but respect for her background in judo and the fact that she could transition into MMA and did really well for a while. But when she got knocked out by Holly Holm, that was it. That changed her dramatically. And even her character, her personality character in UFC, she was kind of a whiny, just whiny. And when they brought her into WWE and made her a baby face, I was it didn't make sense to me because she's not a baby face. Just kind of a she's not. She's a much, much better heel. But they wanted to cast her as a baby face. It was a very, very it was a square peg in a round hole for Ronda because she's not a performer. She's not an actress, although she's done some acting. She's learning and she's getting better. But for the most part, she's an athlete trying to become a performer. At least she was in WWE at that. And she wasn't able to pull it off. So number one, she was miscast. And I never really felt like she really wanted to be there. I always had this feeling, doesn't mean I'm right about it, but it was just my feeling that she was in it for the payday, wasn't really passionate about what she was doing. I think when Holly Holmes knocked her out, she lost her passion for just about everything, and she was there for the money. That was my impression, however right or wrong I may be. And to hear this all now, it just sounds so bitter and so angry that I kind of feel the way I felt about her when she lost to Holly Holmes in UFC when she just came out and was just bitchy about it. Look, you get knocked out, and she got knocked the fuck out. I've been there. I know how that feels. It is not a great feeling, especially when you go back and watch it over and over and over again and know that the world is watching it over and over. But I think something changed, and again, I've never said a word, never had a word conversation with her. I don't know right or wrong, but it's just the way I feel, vibe I get from her. She's a bitter, angry woman, and hopefully she'll sell a lot of books because I think she's burying herself. It's my vibe.
I don't think for a second that she needed the money. She was watching wrestling way back when the Shield broke up, and her friends posted her reaction to it. I mean, she is a big time wrestling fan, and I think her experience was less than awesome. But almost everybody has a similar story about working with Vince. I mean, even AJ Styles came out recently said, "I wish all those other guys in these other companies would realize this is a new WWE. This isn't the same WWE." And I would have loved to have seen what this version of WWE could have done with Ronda, but position her as a heel. I agree with you. She was
Mm.
miscast as a babyface. You're asking her to do something that's out of her wheelhouse. If you go back and you study the way she built feuds, for lack of a better word, in MMA, she was the heel. Now she was dominant, so people love to see that. They love to see a winner. I mean, there was a time where you just knew armbar submission first round, can't stop it. Like here it comes. And then, of course, as you said, she lost. And maybe the bloom was off the rose. And maybe the bloom's off the rose for wrestling for now. But mark my words, Ronda Rousey will be back in WWE. I'm not saying necessarily wrestling, but she's going in the Hall of Fame. She's going to be around. It's a whole new ball game with Vince and others out. I think she'll be back. I don't think this is over. I think she likes it. If she didn't like it, I don't know that she would still be talking about it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, she'll be talking about if she wants to sell a book.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see. I for one, am a Ronda fan. I felt like she, certainly we didn't get the best of Ronda, but I don't know that that's necessarily her fault. And let's also appreciate she was really thrown to the wolves. A guy like Kurt Angle was afforded the opportunity to get reps and learn and get better and then get on TV. She's learning in front of us. It is a different thing when you're immediately on TV right away and judged by that. So we'll see if she really has a long term passion for it or not. But boy, people are talking about it, and I'm curious to see, what the next quote is going to be. It feels like every time I log in, there's another statement from Rhonda. Do you think we will see any other future crossover? I mean, clearly we saw Michael Chandler a few weeks ago calling out Conor McGregor at a Monday Night Raw. We know the history of Ronda in the UFC and certainly Brock Lesnar and Punk and a bunch of others. Bobby Lashley was in MMA but not UFC. You get the idea. Do you think there will be more of this crossover? Do you think there will be UFC stars in some capacity
At WrestleMania or in WrestleMania?
at this year's WrestleMania, just attending the
Oh,
show,
yeah.
getting
I
involved
I I
physically?
do. I do, and I'm here for it. I think that's great. Sure we will. I think I've read comments, executives in UFC talking about, having talent at some of the bigger events and that. So I think so for sure, celebrities, there a lot of these fighters are legit celebrities in their world. So I think of course you will. As far as seeing, you know, UFC fighters transition into WWE, am sure that we will at some point, but I don't think it's going to become any more frequent than it was before the merger. I think some people are going to be really interested in doing it and able to do it. Won't. We'll see it. I was watching, following the news on my 40-hour trek to get home, and there's some great looking talent coming out of the NCAA wrestling finals going on right now that went on over the weekend. I mean, super heavyweight, can't remember his name right now. I think he weighed 265 or 285. Looks like he was right out of central casting for a wrestling movie, big budget wrestling movie. Looks great. If someone like that spends a little bit of time in UFC, makes that transition, definitely. I could see another Kurt Angle coming out of the woodwork, but I don't think we're going to see a lot of it.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing what's next with WrestleMania because it feels like it's getting to a fever pitch. I mean, we've heard that they were trying to do something with Sylvester Stallone, and there's no telling what other crossover we're going to see at this year's WrestleMania. What I know for sure though is we're going to be doing over at 83weeks.com, our YouTube channel, Eric Bischoff's top 5 WrestleMania moments. He's going to be breaking down his top 5 reasons this WrestleMania is going to be the biggest WrestleMania yet and some of the bigger moments through history. We're going to be doing a lot of these top 5s and top 10s and things like that. They're going to be exclusive to 83weeks.com. They won't be posting here on the RSS feed. Of course, you're going to get them early and ad free over at adfreeshows.com, but be sure to check us out at 83weeks.com if you haven't already. Eric, let's talk about our topic, why we're really here today. And then
I forgot why we're here today. I thought we got done talking about why we're here today, right?
you know what? Let's do this. Let's do some questions and then we'll talk about our topic.
All
We
right,
got a live
sounds good.
studio audience here from adfreeshows.com. I want to give a shout out to everybody who's hanging out with us. Mike Hoop wants to know, Eric, would you keep on with the promos or have some tag matches with Bloodline and Cody, Jay, and Seth? I, for one, don't think they should touch till WrestleMania. What say you?
Absolutely agree with you, Conrad. I don't think they should touch. The more they touch, the more interesting the match will build that anticipation, make them want it. This is like the professional wrestling of sexual foreplay. You got to give it some time. You got to build up the anticipation in order for the ending to be as magic as you want it to be. Don't jump in and do it right away. And no, I don't believe in any more contact than is absolutely necessary, as we were talking about, largest part of the beginning of the show. I think the magic of involved in last night, a lot of it, but I think the greatest part of it for me in terms of formatting, goal of the show, was all that show did was build anticipation. Stories already there, anticipation, reality, surprise, action. WWE is hitting on all 5 of those critical areas compared to the Sarsafon. And any more contact than is absolutely necessary right now is only going to diminish it.
Carl Hayes wants to know, do you see WWE's women's division getting their own TV show maybe once streaming starts? They seem to be growing and stacked with talent. Could you see a women's only show sort of to maybe compete with WoW? Would you see that?
Could got the talent to do it, right?
Yep.
Especially if you look at, you know, including NXT talent. Well, of course, yes, I think it could happen. Do I think that there's a television market for it? That I'm not sure of. I know the what is it? WoW? Is
Yeah.
that the name of the organization?
Women of Wrestling, David McLean.
Women of Wrestling. I mean, I don't follow it. Obviously, it's in syndication. It's not on cable. Um, last I checked. But in terms of its viewership, it's competitive with AEW. So there's clearly a market for it. I don't know that there'll be a market for it in cable, but if there is, the talent is there, the abilities are there, production capabilities are there, everything's there. So there's a market for it. Why not?
It's funny you say if there's a market there for it because as we're recording this on a Tuesday morning, just yesterday it was announced that WWE is doing a deal with Roku for a brand new all access docuseries called WWE Next Gen. The idea is, I guess they've been running these tryouts and camps and they're trying to see who could be the next superstar. And John Cena is the executive producer for it. But the reason I bring this up is it's not on Peacock. It's not on USA. It's not on Fox. It's on Roku. And I thought,
Mhm.
wow, that's different. What'd you think of the news that on April 1st, so just a few days from now, WWE Next Gen is going to have a presence on Roku?
I think it's again the business of the business, growing, expanding, reaching out into other areas of entertainment that are beyond just cable and network. I think it's fantastic. I think you're going to see more and more of that type because there's other companies out there other than Roku. Roku. There's Vizio, for example, television manufacturer who is out actually looking for original content
Mm.
that could be a part of the built-in app of televisions that are sold all over the country. So there's more and more people that are looking at wrestling as a way to capture an audience. And I think that is nothing but fantastic for wrestling.
You got to think that's just another revenue stream, more money for WWE, more money for the talent. And if you're looking to get a little more money, can I recommend Rocket Money? Eric and I are big believers in this. You know, we've all heard the phrase, it's not what you make, but what you keep, what you save. We want to save you some money with Rocket Money. And I have to admit, and I thought I was pretty on top of this, but Rocket Money is actually saving me quite a bit. Let me explain. Did you know of any subscriptions that you forgot about? We've all done this. Go sign up for something, or maybe you and your wife both signed up for the same thing and you don't even realize you have two of them. Well, that happened to me. My wife and I, at the start of the pandemic, signed up for what felt like every type of streaming service. But one streaming service in particular, she signed up for and I did too. The trouble is, we only ever used my account, but she was getting charged every month. We were paying double. That's crazy. She would sign up for some other fitness apps and then try it, forget about it. It's still getting drafted every month. She hadn't used it in months. Rocket Money found all of this. And we're not alone. Like 75% of people have subscriptions they've forgotten about. And I thought I've got like 5 or 6. No, I had more than a dozen, way more. And I was able to find all the different streaming services, the fitness apps, the delivery services that we're not using. And thanks to Rocket Money, I'm no longer wasting money on stuff I forgot about. It's an awesome way to save money. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that will find and cancel all of your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and and helps you lower your bill so you can grow your savings. Now, with Rocket Money, you have full control and you can see all of your expenses. You can see all of your subscriptions in one place. And man, if you see something you don't want, Rocket Money can help you cancel it with just a few taps. There's even a dashboard that shows you this month's spending compared to last month. You'll be able to clearly see your spending habits. You can even create a custom budget that keeps your spending on track. That's the only thing my wife didn't love about this app, keeping tabs on it. The Rocket Money app will also help you negotiate to lower your bills for you by up to 20%. Listen up, y'all. All you do is submit a picture of your bill, and Rocket Money takes care of the rest. They're going to try to get you a better deal. Their customer service team is here for you, and they've saved their customers more than 5 million users, in fact, over $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving on average like $740 a year. Find out how much money you can save and stop wasting money on things you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions right now by going to rocketmoney.com/83weeks. That's rocketmoney.com/83weeks. One more time, rocketmoney.com/83weeks. Let's do another question here. This is from Drew Russell, who's a part of our live studio audience. I'm not criticizing The Rock by any means. He's my all time favorite star in history. But do you think he's outshining every person on the roster without trying to just because he's
God, that's a great question. That was actually, I want to say a note, but I kind of be careful how I say this because I don't want to contradict myself. But it's complicated because I almost feel as a viewer, I'm not overthinking this. Perhaps Roman and Cody feels less than as a result of all of the focus and the magnitude of what Rock and Cody. I actually feel like Rock and Cody is the only main event at WrestleMania that we should be talking about.
well, hang on now. Hang on. That's night one. Like,
I know, I know, I
yeah,
know. I understand. That's why I'm conflicted with it. I
yes,
get it. And because it's the 2 nights and I mean, I get it,
it's a real challenge.
but is in terms of the question that was just asked, I almost feel like Rock is overshadowing everything else. Now, the finish will take care of that, assuming we're going to have a great finish. I'm sure that we will. But right now, in the moment, I think Rock is overshadowing Roman Reigns. Just being honest.
How could he not? I mean, I think that's got to be kind of the idea because that helps build towards the next show. But I don't really worry about outshining. I mean, I think he's a legendary Hall of Famer who has this presence. I mean, you saw the reaction The Rock got. He came out and said nothing and did nothing and whispered, but we had no idea what it was, and they ate it up. They when he exited the ring, they booed. He did nothing. So I just think they're using The Rock very, very effectively, and I'm so glad they made a pivot. I can't imagine that the original plan of Rock and Roman would somehow be better than what we're actually.
No, I no, and I certainly don't mean to imply that.
Yeah,
And really what I'm suggesting is that Rock creates a very, very, very unique problem, and that is the magnitude of his stardom. It's almost impossible for Rock not to suck up the oxygen in the room when he walks into it. Is what it is. That's the benefit of having The Rock. It's also the reality of having The Rock. Is he's going to suck up the energy in the room because he is that big of a star. Again, I think the finish and the story will manage all of that, and at the end, it won't be a negative. But right now, this morning as I was watching the show, I thought all I'm thinking of is Rock and Cody. I'm really not thinking too much about Roman, and that's partly because of what I was watching, designed to do that. But
sure.
yeah, to answer the question, yeah, I think a little bit, man. He's going to overshadow anybody because the fucking Rock.
Travis Medway, shout out to Travis. I don't remember seeing Travis on a lot of live streams. Appreciate you being here with us and joining us from adfreeshows.com. He's got a question. I know you're not a fan of tag team main event matches, but is this upcoming Mania one as good as it?
I think it is. I mean, and one of the reasons it is because the stakes are going to impact night 2. How do you not love that? Not that I don't like tag team wrestling. It's that it's hard to manage if you're a producer because in terms of roster size, in order to have a vibrant, robust, viable tag team division, you've got to have a lot of tag teams you can play with, build stories around, which means you're going to have twice as many people on your roster that are tag team wrestlers that you would normally need. So it's a budgetary issue, and it's been one of the problems. You have tag teams, but they're kind of secondary. They're really not a lot of focus on tag teams, generally speaking, um, because you just need to have so many to round out a good, meaningful division, tag team division. But when you can have a tag team that's a match, a main event that's set up like this, where not only do you have major stars primarily wrestle singles, you have major stars coming together for a purpose, and the purpose is to raise the stakes for night 2. How do you not love that? It's
Have to
awesome.
love that. Coach Keith is asking the question we're all asking lately. So what a great question. I know I'm going to be putting you on the spot. I already know your answer. Eric, and please, can you answer Conrad also? If Vince was still in charge or had any say in the company, would the WWE?
No,
Isn't that
I mean,
crazy?
we saw that beginning to happen before Vince was forced to officially permanently resign.
Yes.
So, and we saw almost within a week or 2 weeks of Triple H, Paul Levesque, I'm sorry, taking over, a lot more consistency, a lot better storytelling, consistency being probably the biggest one, continuity. Uh, but I don't think any question at all that WWE creatively is much, and it's not to take away anything from what Vince McMahon achieved. Did you read Becky Lynch's interview
Yes.
talking about being conflicted? I think Becky did a fantastic job, and I think a lot of people to varying degrees that worked for Vince with Vince feel much the same way. I do. I'm conflicted. I'm in an even weirder way because I was we were competitive
Right.
and it was an ugly, brutal, bloody, legitimate fight, competition that I'm coming to work for. Coming to and in the process of all of that, I gained a tremendous amount of respect for Vince McMahon and what he's done for the business. You would have never heard me say, although it was true, but I was too focused on my own shit to think about it. If it weren't for Vince McMahon and WWE, there would have never been a WC.
Right.
There certainly wouldn't be an AEW. There would be a lot of things. And when you look at it from that perspective and you're honest enough and intelligent enough to see that big picture and admit that were it not for Vince's creativity, his vision for the industry, all of the good things that Vince did, there would not be, we wouldn't be talking, you and I would probably not even know each other.
Right.
So that's one perspective I have on Vince McMahon, but it's in direct contrast to what we've read and learned about in recent months. So I'm not taking away from Vince's creativity, some of the genius things, creatively genius things that probably did starting back in the 80s that had his fingerprints all over it. But I worked for the guy for a few months back in 2019, and that was not something that I could see myself doing. He was a wreck creatively. His process demoralized people. It created inconsistency. Continuity was hard to even talk about because Vince's opinion of what he wanted to do changed from one day to the next or from one meeting to the next, the day of the show. All you have to do is have talent come into the room, sit down with Vince for 45 minutes, you walk out and you're tearing up scripts and starting over again. All of that was out of control. And I think with Paul Levesque in control, along with Bruce and, Ed Koskey, a name people don't hear about too much. There's a lot of great talent, writing talent, creative talent, experienced talent as producers and writers. Now with Brian Gewirtz there, I don't know how much input Brian has. I think the show is reached. I think it's creatively a better show than it's ever been to me.
Eric, we're actually recording live here on a Tuesday morning, and we've got some breaking news that I want to get your take on. But we need to take a break right now. But we do have some breaking news on the AEW side of things. I want to take just a minute, though, to thank our sponsor, BlueChew, who's been with us from the absolute day one, the very beginning of 83 weeks. Involved, of course, BlueChew. They've been with us from day one, and they really support us. And we want you to try BlueChew if you haven't already. Support our sponsor just because you enjoy the show, but you are going to be, as our pal JR says, in a reorder situation. You're going to love it. Blue Chew, if you haven't tried it, you don't know what you're missing. It's the same active ingredients as Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra, but in chewable form and at a fraction of the cost. Now, you can take these anytime, day or night, so plan ahead or be ready whenever an opportunity arises. And the process is simple. Sign up at bluechew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. And the best part is, it's all done online. So no visits to the doctor's office, no awkward conversation, no waiting in line at the pharmacy. Blue Chew's tablets are made in the USA, prepared and shipped directly to your door, all in a discreet package. Now, I just want to throw this out there. I know you know this, but as your pal, I just want to tell you, this is not for guys who have a problem. If you have a problem, it can help you. This is for guys who want to put on a show. Maybe if it's somebody's birthday, maybe it's an anniversary, maybe there's a special occasion, you're going to get a 5-star review here. If you want to leave a lasting impression, you want to feel like a 17-year-old again. You want to make her feel the way she used to feel before bills and life and kids and being a taxi got in the way. Blue Chew can help. I really want you to think about it that way. Think about it as performance enhancing drugs for your wiener meat. That's what it is. Yes, you could just keep doing what you've been doing, and it's probably fine. But if it could be better and it's free, why not? Let me explain. Blue Chew wants to help you have better sex. So discover your options at bluechew.com. Chew it and do it. We've got a special deal for our listeners. Try Blue Chew free when you use our promo code 83 weeks. Check out. Just pay the $5 shipping. That's bluechew.com. The promo code is 83 weeks to receive your first month free. Visit bluechew.com for more details and important safety information. We want to thank Blue Chew for sponsoring today's podcast. So, Eric, we got to talk about the breaking news. I can't believe that, this is happening while we're recording. But it turns out AEW has just announced they have a new COO, a chief operating officer. Of course, this is, I believe, I've heard Jeff Jarrett pronounce it, Koshe Irby. I've not yet met Mr. Irby, but as I understand it, he used to work at WWE, and that's where some people you and I know first met Mr. Irby. But Tony Khan announced today that he is now the COO of AEW. He's going to oversee strategic planning and execution of live events, marketing, finance, human resources, licensing, consumer products, and other major lines of business for the company. He's coming from Clemson, and he's worked for WWE, PBR, Alliance of American Football. Here's a quote from Tony. Koshe brings decades of experience within sports, entertainment, and wrestling industries alongside an incredible work ethic and passion for our brand. As chief operating officer, he will be a phenomenal asset to AEW as we enter the next phase of the company's ongoing business development and expansion. Listen, the knock on AEW for a while has been they just needed more corporate structure. They needed more support. Maybe Tony was burning it at both ends. Maybe he needed more help. As a reminder, he has a sports data company, a football club, and the Jacksonville Jaguars. And AEW. And there's been some criticism that perhaps he was stretched too thin and doing too much. which is probably fair. So having somebody in your back pocket who's going to join your company and take that role as COO, that's got to be a value add. What do you make of this news, Eric?
Hard to comment on too much because I don't know the individual. I don't know what he did in WWE. Um, Look, I think bringing in high highly qualified, experienced management can only be a good thing. I don't think that that's AEW's biggest problem in terms of where they're at. Their biggest problem is creative, and until that is solved, none of these other areas, marketing, licensing, for example, nobody's going to be interested in licensing your property unless your property becomes legitimately successful. Those are all things that come with success and growth. I don't know that someone who's operating in the capacity traditionally of a COO is going to have enough impact on those specific areas you just mentioned to really matter too much in the short or even midterm. Long term, yes. And if that's the strategy, it was a good decision on Tony's part. I think Tony, and I've said this a million times, Tony definitely does need to surround himself with qualified, experienced, legitimately successful people in their respective areas of discipline, particularly when it comes to the on camera product, because that's what's suffering. But if bringing in someone like Mr. Urbe, is that his name?
Yep.
Is able to take some pressure off Tony, if Tony's actually engaged in a lot of those areas, able to come in and take some pressure off Tony so Tony can focus more on creative, then potentially that's a good thing, particularly if there's other people working with Tony in creative that can actually learn how to produce a television show because they don't know how to produce television. There's enough people there that do. It's just a matter of will Tony listen? Will Tony take guidance from people who know more than he does? That's what it always comes down to, especially with strong personalities. I don't know that Tony's a strong personality per se. He's a unique personality. He's got all the money and he's funding it himself, so that gives him, uh, gives him a very, very loud voice. Clearly, but learning how to delegate and recognizing one's strengths and weaknesses is an ongoing process for most people. It certainly is for me, has been for me, it still is. And I think Tony would be really well served to bring in people like Mr. Urbe and others who can assist in the areas that AEW the most creative. Jen Pepperman's there. Jen Pepperman, great resource. Will he listen to her? Will he take some guidance? Will he, and just experiment with another way of doing it and give it enough time to see if it's a better process or not. There are people there in AEW right now. He doesn't have to hire anybody. He just has to learn how to listen and delegate and give some people enough room to fail.
Well, I for one am glad that they got some more help in there. I know that it's a startup. We got some growing pains. We're working for that second contract. This is going to be a big year for AEW. So I hope it feels like they've got a lot of momentum right now. Like we've seen some really really fun episodes in a row now, and we've seen really fantastic Raws. It feels like we've got a lot of momentum in the wrestling business. And Josh Henney has a great question that I wanted to ask you with us as a live studio audience member from adfreeshows.com. He says social media usually spoils everything. How great is it that WWE is creating anticipation still? What can they be doing to make it work? I mean, the anticipation, I think you nailed it earlier of wondering like what did The Rock whisper? And by the way, I think what he said is if you're trying to practice your lip reading, I'm going to make you bleed tonight. And then he did it. It was awesome. It was well done. And hopefully we'll see more of that in WWE programming in the future. And I don't know, is that because Vince is out? Is it because Brian is back? Is it a combination of things? Um, but anticipation, it's the biggest part of wrestling. And I got a friend of mine who used to do TV shows. He used to have this formula. He would say Sarsa, and I think that one of those A's, I'm pretty sure, was anticipation.
I agree, and I think thanks for the nod. I goes back to what we were talking about earlier with Vince McMahon being head of creative. What we're talking about here are little tiny details, right? The anticipate Rock coming out and saying nothing. No, that wasn't a little tiny detail. That was a big decision creatively. It was a really big decision. But the execution of it, whispering in Cody's ear, you know, threading it throughout the show. That's an attention to detail within how many times have you heard me say disciplined storytelling? And I'm wondering how many people that have heard me beat on that drum merc- without mercy, beat that drum talking about it. Disciplined, well structured story. And that's what we're seeing. Disciplined and well structured, meaning little detail and stringing those little details together to create a narrative and creating a narrative that creates questions. It's not brain surgery. It's a craft. It's an art. It's a subtlety, but it's hard to reach that level of storytelling when you're constantly changing gears and shifting on the fly and changing basic stories on the fly and adding things in at the last minute. You lose that continuity, lose the discipline within the structure of a story so that you're getting plot points along the way that create the anticipation that makes everything work. It's one of the reasons that I lose my shit when people talk about the and again, I'm not here to beat up on AEW, but there's such a contrast to the storytelling in WWE and the lack of storytelling or the excuse of a story in AEW. AEW stories are nothing more than angles that justify a match. If that, oftentimes they're just fucking random, right? We've all heard the stories from people that we all know about shit changing minute by minute backstage before a show. Same things. It's one of the reasons that I call this shit out because everybody in AEW was so quick, to talk about how in WCW, we wouldn't know what we were doing until an hour before the show. Same thing with WWE. We didn't know what we were doing until an hour before the show. Well, guess what, folks? The talent in AEW don't know what the fuck they're doing until after the show starts half. We all, those of us who have contacts behind the scenes, we all know that is true. And that's one of the things that's holding AEW down is the lack of continuity and consistency that manifests as a result of just random booking and emotional changes of direction as opposed to a plan. I think what we're seeing right now in WWE is a plan. A lot of extremely talented writers are now able to focus on the little details that they know will help build anticipation and give you the plot point architecture you need within the storylines for the storyline to be effective. And we're seeing now, because of Paul Levesque and Bruce Pritchard and others who are involved in that process, they have the time and the ability now to focus on those little details, and those little details are what matters. Somebody told me once, I don't know who it was. I think it was Mike Shields, actually the guy who was responsible for getting me in to work for Vern Gagne in the AWA. Vern obviously made the final decision, but it was Mike Shields who got me in the door. And Mike Shields, pretty sure it was him, told me one time that great television is nothing more than great attention to a lot of little details. All television is little detail. The better you are at putting those little details together and crafting them into an arc of a story that builds anticipation and then pays off at the end, much like BlueChew. The better you are at that, the higher performance your storytelling process is, the higher performance the story will deliver. And that's what we're seeing. And I don't think it's like anybody woke up and learned how to do it in WWE. I think now, because of the structure and the process, the way things have changed with Paul Levesque in charge, along with his team, I think you're seeing the best of great writing talent coming out and manifesting on the screen.
I for one am really excited and motivated about the rest of 2024 in wrestling. It feels like we're going to have a landmark year this year. I mean, here we are at the end of Q1, and we've already had a big Royal Rumble, a huge Vince McMahon story, major power shift and shakeup. Uh, Sting's last match, The Rock is back. Feels like WrestleMania is bigger than ever. This might be like a banner year for professional wrestling as a whole, and I got to think a lot of that credit goes to the storytelling. I mean, really,
I don't know how we can't, and we wouldn't have been having this conversation a year and a half ago or 2 years ago.
yeah.
The storytelling in WWE has changed so dramatically, and it's all been, along the lines of Paul Levesque taking over and stepping away, and I think we're gonna continue to see better and better storytelling. The more success they have, the more confidence they'll have in that process. I think we're see more and more of it, which is only gonna lead to more and more success for WWE, and hopefully, at some point, Tony will wake up and go, "Okay, I've gotta change the way I do things in order to be viable." And to truly be, as Tony likes to say, a legitimate contender. You're not right now. You could be, but you're not. And I think the more Tony sees the success of WWE, hopefully, the more open-minded he will be into putting more emphasis on story and less emphasis on the spectacle. Because that's what AEW is really a spectacle-driven company, and WWE is a story-driven company. Those are the two big different companies. One is a spectacle, one is a story.
Well, let's take a time out right now and tell you about something that I've learned a lot about. And we're talking about our friends at Signos. You know, you have been on this train for a long, long time. And I'm just now learning. I have to admit, I was ignorant to this, but I've learned a lot. And it was really a crash course for me. I guess I should have known some of this. And maybe you didn't know this either. Let me share. The CDC estimates that there are approximately 96 million American adults. That's more than 1 in 3, y'all, that have pre-diabetes. Now, of those with prediabetes, more than 80% don't know they have it. Now, why does this matter? Well, foods that are high in carbohydrates raise your blood sugar more than other foods. And during digestion, the pancreas produces insulin, which binds the sugar in your blood and takes it into the cells as a source of energy. But now, if you have prediabetes, the sugar begins to build up in the bloodstream rather than fueling the cells. And this is when insulin resistance occurs. And that's believed to be the number one cause of prediabetes. So, a healthy weight allows the insulin to work more efficiently and can help keep blood sugars within a normal range. And a healthy diet and regular exercise are the best way to bring your blood sugar levels back into a healthy range. Now, Signos can help you short circuit all of this cycle by using data directly from your body. Check this out. Signos is the only company that combines a CGM or a continuous glucose monitor with an AI driven app to deliver to you real time glucose monitoring. Now, the result is you're going to start paying attention to things that maybe you haven't before. That's been my experience. With Signos, you can literally see which foods are going to cause your blood sugar to spike above a reasonable level. And it'll even give you a real time alert to do a bit of exercise to bring them back down. Now, I'm not saying all of a sudden you're going to be at work and you're going to have to, your phone's going to tell you go run a marathon. No, but just doing a short walk. Maybe you're going to walk to lunch. Maybe you're going to check the mail. Maybe I mean, just easy walk the dog, stuff like that can really make a big difference. Not only that, things like just a glass of wine at dinner, that can also make a really big difference. And on average, we're all making like 227 different food choices a day. But with Signos, you'll learn the difference of which ones are better for you and which ones aren't as far as keeping these glucose levels in check. More importantly than that, though, you're going to learn the difference between stress eating and physical hunger. You're going to have the ability to manage your energy better throughout the day. You're going to sleep better at night. And more importantly, you're going to help meet your weight loss and health goals with data that's unique to you and your body. Not like you read something somewhere. No, man, it's tied into you. It's getting you the information instantly. I've tried it. I love it. It's a game changer for me. And by the way, I think I've shared this before. My wife works in medical clinical research. This is what she does full time and has for, I don't know, decades. But when this came to our house, because we vet all of our sponsors, she took a look at this and says, "You got to tell wrestling fans about this. They don't know." I didn't know. She taught me so much about the glucose monitor and the CGM and the way it works. Signos is the real deal. They remove the guesswork of weight loss. They're going to provide you with the tools and knowledge you need to develop healthier habits. It's going to combine the data from the CGM and the AI driven app. You'll get the real time information, real time glucose insights, optimal health and weight management. And right now, they've got a special deal just for our listeners to 83 weeks. Go to signos.com. That's signos.com and get up to 20% off select plans by using the code 83 weeks today. That's signos.com and use the code 83 weeks to get up to 20% off select plans for you today. Man, I'm excited that we had an opportunity to catch up on all that's going on in wrestling. I'm excited that we got to talk with some of our live studio audience. I want to give a shout out to Josh Henney and Coach Rosie and Travis Medway and so many other people who chimed in. I know Bobby was here and Carney was here, and it means a lot that you guys show up and hang out with us early on a work day like this. Shout out to Eric Green, who's hanging in there. Coach Keith's in the house, Mike Hoop. It's a big deal that you guys are hanging out with us because we know, our schedules were shuffled a little bit this week, but you're still here. And Mike Hoop wants to know, Eric, you spent some time in Whiskey Row in Prescott. That's a fun question, a little personal question. Have you spent any time there?
Yes, I have. Prescott was about an hour and a half drive north of where we lived in Cave Creek, Arizona, Scottsdale. And yeah, Mrs. B would jump on a Harley, and Mrs. B and I would jump on a Harley and head up to Prescott. And it's a very, very cool town. I mean, it's a Western town, and Whiskey Row is just a collection of bars. Famous. Talked about the Palace. Doc Holliday is basically a bouncer there. Got a lot of history, and yeah, we'd go up there quite often. It was a beautiful drive, especially on a Harley. And Prescott was a little higher elevation than Scottsdale, so even in the middle of the summer when it was like 110 degrees down in Cave Creek, Arizona, where we lived, it would be 85 or 90 up there, and it was comfortable. So yeah, we would go up there quite frequently.
We got to mention that over at adfreeshows.com, not only do you get to be a part of our live studio audience and you get this bonus content from new series like Tuesdays with the Taskmaster or Lex Express or Monday Mailbag with Mike Chioda, you get all that stuff, but you also get bonuses from like Eric Bischoff. How about this? Wrestling with Shadows. As I understand it, you're going to be sitting down to watch the Bret Hart documentary, Wrestling with Shadows, for the very first time. And I know folks will be excited to hear your thoughts and your reaction to it. And they can do all of this over at adfreeshows.com. We've got a ton of bonus content in the archives for you to enjoy as well. Check it out, adfreeshows.com. And we were intending to talk about Hulk Hogan's Celebrity Championship Wrestling. We're like 90 minutes in. We haven't even started. So we'll kick that can and we'll talk about it after WrestleMania. Obviously, WrestleMania is paramount. We're going to be talking all things WrestleMania next week as well. And we want you involved in the conversation. We're going to be throwing up polls. We've got some questions. We're going to let you vote on topics and things you want to hear about. 83weeks.com is your home for all things Eric Bischoff. Make sure you're subscribing and you're liking and you're turning on the notification. Throw us some comments. We got some live streams coming up that are going to be there. You don't want to miss it. It's 83weeks.com. You can also see the Hall of Fame induction. We're going to be discussing that and a whole lot more, I'm sure, in the next week or so. And what I'm really excited about, one of the ideas that we kicked around, Eric, that we're going to be doing soon is if there were a WCW Hall of Fame, who would be in that class? Now, I know there's never going to be a tradition. I know there was in the mid 90s, but if with the benefit of hindsight now, who would be in that WCW Hall of Fame? And I say the benefit of hindsight because I bet you didn't even notice what today's day is.
No.
March 26, 23 years ago today was the very last Nitro. How crazy is that? It's funny. I didn't think of that until we sat down to click record and I looked in the bottom right-hand corner of my computer and I go, Wait, March 26th. How about that?
Wow.
It's pretty poetic that when we did finally get to record this episode, we didn't record it 2 days before the anniversary or a day before the anniversary. We recorded it on the actual anniversary. And we would love to hear your feedback. Who do you think should be in the WCW Hall of Fame? Hit us up at 83weeks.com. If you just can't get enough Eric Bischoff, be sure to check out his new book, Grateful. It's over at Amazon or bischoffbook.com. Also, love to have your interactions on social. If you haven't already, follow the show at 83 Weeks on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. You can also interact with Eric on Twitter. He's pretty active there at eBischoff. Or you can see a bunch of beautiful pictures of Eric's house and dog and family. Oh my, at the real Eric Bischoff on Instagram. And boxofgimmicks.com has all that you can shake a stick at. 83weeksmerch.com has Heat is Life. I'm an Eric Bischoff guy. Cody is the guy, and so much more. And I think we've mentioned it before, but now you can buy an NWO shirt from Eric Bischoff. This is a real thing. We've got all
Yay.
kinds of NWO swag now available at shopwrestlingmerch.com. You got hats for the black and white and the wolf pack. You got tank tops, you got hoodies, you got t-shirts, and you've even got the big gold belt spray painted with the NWO. Not only that, but all of your other WWE merch. We have an affiliate partnership with Fanatics now. So this will be the first time when somebody buys an NWO shirt, Eric gets a royalty. How about that? Go right now to shopwrestlingmerch.com and join Eric Bischoff and the 83 Weeks World Order. Eric, I'm glad you're home. I'm glad we got to see your smiling face, and I can't wait to see your bar, and I can't wait to talk about next week's TV, man. We've got a lot of big shows coming up. We've got the Go Home Monday Night Raw for WrestleMania. We've got the Go Home Friday Night SmackDown for WrestleMania, and not one, but 2 nights of WrestleMania. Man, I'm feeling it. I'm ready for WrestleMania this weekend. I can't wait.
Yeah, I'm gonna need to take a vacation once WrestleMania is over, and I'm not even involved in it. Crying out loud. Another thing we're doing over at 83weeks.com starting tomorrow night, Wednesday night. I'm going to be doing a 4 episode, 4-part series with an author by the name of Brad Lejuki. Brad wrote, this is his second book. First book was called The Wax Pack. His most recent book, which is coming out, I think, a week from today, is called Six Pack. And the book follows 6 of the principles of WrestleMania 3, goes behind the scenes, some amazing, amazing interviews you've never heard before. And the amount of research that Brad did for this book was similar to what Guy Evans did to research the book Nitro. The quality of the book is so fantastic. And we're going to break down a couple of the main chapters in the book and talk about what went into to getting the interviews with these talents and the research that went into it. We're going to learn some things that nobody's ever heard before about WWE F, back when Vince McMahon Sr. was involved. Lawsuits, research, travel logs, payoffs, all kinds of stuff that Brad was able to unearth in his research. And we're going to talk about all of it. And you'll be able to tune in 83weeks.com. You'll learn about the book and get to meet Brad. And it's another great thing coming to you from 83weeks.com. It's starting again tomorrow night, Wednesday night. We'll be doing it for 4 weeks straight.
I'm pumped about it. I've had a chance to see the book, read the book. I love the book. I think Brad's done a great job. He even did a data dump, and some of the stuff that we're going to be sharing, I had a chance to preview. My goodness, the internal reports that he has access to, the lawsuits that he was
Unbelievable.
able to dig up. Like, if you're a hardcore wrestling nerd, you don't want to miss any of it. It's all going to be on our YouTube channel, 83weeks.com. If you haven't already, check it out. Man, he's got the entire Bill Eadie lawsuit with the WWE. I mean, it is hundreds of pages. And I actually thumbed through all of them, and it was fascinating to see a real page turner. Not only that, but like internal reports for what merch was sold at WrestleMania 3, all this and so much more. 83weeks.com, and be sure to check out the brand new book. We're going to have all the details on that in the coming weeks, but join us tomorrow night, Wednesday night, 83weeks.com. Eric, thanks for the time. Welcome back. And I'm looking forward to catching up again soon. We'll see you guys next week right here on 83 Weeks with Eric Bischoff.